Um, okay, I think we're all good to go then. So, good afternoon. Welcome to our webinar about the SHARE programme. My name's Claire Prendergast. I'm the Postgraduate Recruitment Manager for the School of Humanities and Social Sciences, and I work with our team here at the University of Cambridge and other colleagues at Bedfordshire and Anglia Ruskin as well on delivering the SHARE programme. So, just to give you a brief overview, we're hoping to probably spend no more than about 40 minutes going through slides. We'll give you a brief introduction, talk about the programme. We've also got a couple of previous current students at the university who previously took part in SHARE and who'll be delighted to answer any questions about that. We'll keep all the questions until the end. We'll be recording this so that people who couldn't attend will be able to view it. But we'll stop recording once we get to Q&As at the end and questions. And then this will be going up online as well. So if there's anything you don't want kind of recorded, please do wait till the end until we say that it's being stopped recording. So hopefully that's clear for everyone. So do please, if you've got any questions or want to ask things, you can post them up in the chat. But we'll come to the questions overall at the end of all the slides once we've gone through everything. Okay. So that's a quick overview. So as I said, we'll talk about the programme. One of my colleagues, Emiko Priest, she'll be talking about some of the other areas. We'll talk about living in Cambridge, and everyone will introduce themselves as they come along and talk about what they're doing. So we'll talk about living in Cambridge, about the training and development, and about the participants. So in terms of the programme, SHARE and our particular placement programme, it's looking to basically give people who are from underrepresented groups opportunities to have research experience and to get that experience here at on various projects. So a wide range of people who basically come from different criteria of underrepresentation. So it's the 6th year of the scheme, so it's 5th year in person. So starting in 2021, we've had about 50 students now who've been through the programme, and people have gone on to postgraduate study at a variety of universities, not just Cambridge. Some have gone on to Essex, Bristol, for example, to do a PhD. We've got one of the students who was here last year doing master's programme has gone on to do a PhD in Leicester University, for example. So various kind of areas in terms of where people have gone on to. And obviously quite a number have come to study at Cambridge as well. It's open to students who are in their penultimate year of undergraduate study, so it's not designed for people who are already doing postgraduate study or research. It's for students who are already in their undergraduate degree. Usually most of our students will be, for example, in their 2nd year and will be doing their final year next year. Or sometimes in the 3rd year doing a placement and doing final year next year. So it's aimed at people who haven't yet got to their final year. Often very much people are doing a dissertation or something in their final year. So it will be students who maybe haven't got to that stage as yet. So the idea is you'll spend time in projects to get a flavour of what postgraduate research is like, working with other researchers at the university, working with current PhD students, probably postdoctoral researchers, as well as staff who are established lecturers and professors in their field and the kind of chief leads in that research project. So besides working on the projects, you'll also be doing some training and development sessions. We'll be talking a bit more about that. And those are aimed at supporting your work on those research projects and in terms of the programme overall. So it's a sense that basically our aim is by the end of the SHARE programme is that you should have had the opportunity for some hands-on experience, but also have had input about, for example, things like applying for postgraduate study. You'll feel a bit more confident about potentially making a postgraduate application, whether that be to Oxford or Cambridge or your own university or another Russell Group university, for example. So it should give you a bit more confidence about applying for those programmes, being able to present yourself in the best light, being able to look at the experiences that you've had and so on, what you'd have to offer, and also get an idea of what it actually involves. So is it something actually you're interested in? So besides the programme, we also offer free student accommodation. So that's offered by Gonville and Keys. The aim being that basically we're aware of the fact that in terms of finding accommodation, particularly for a short period of time, it can be very difficult to do, particularly in a city like Cambridge, which in the summertime has a lot of tourists, so it's very busy. So it can be quite difficult finding that accommodation. So we do provide that as well during the 4 weeks that you're with us on the programme. So I think that's sums everything up then. So in terms of how the placement looks, in terms of how that is aimed, we have 4 projects this year. So we aim to assign 2 participants to each project, with the aim being that therefore there's somebody else who's on the project with you. They may be doing similar work, they may be doing very different work. That is up to the project lead as to how they decide to allocate the work. Sometimes they will take into account the different skills that different participants have got to offer. So therefore they may kind of like go, actually, you might be better working on this than that. Sometimes it can be very similar work. So at least half a day a week. So out of the five-day working week, you will be spending at least half a day on kind of training. Usually this would be Monday morning potentially, but the rest of the time will be spent working on the research project. So a lot of the time will be on a research project. So in terms of the pattern of how the work lays out, that should give you an idea. Evenings and weekends are your own. There are social events which take place in the evening times. You're not obliged to take part in them, but most people who come on the programme tend to do that. It's quite a nice opportunity to get to meet and spend a bit more time with the other participants on the programme, get to know a bit about Cambridge and so on. Very often, sometimes some of the mentors who are current PhD students might come along to those social events. And so on, so that they can take a bit of a welcome break as well. In terms of the accommodation that you're in, you'll be sharing that with other participants as well. So you would generally see them as in the evening times as well after finishing work. The final day of the share programme on Friday, there's usually presentations from each participant about their project and their experience. You do get support for that. It's not to everyone always finds it very daunting, but at the end of it, everyone always says how rewarding it is, and it's really appreciated by the project teams and the whole programme actually, because it's very interesting to see what each participant has been doing, achieving, and so on. So particularly because everyone goes off to their different workplace and sees different things. So it's very rewarding to see that at the end of the programme, which is why we do that. And it's a great opportunity to learn how to present on your own as well in terms of research. In terms of making the application, we'd encourage you to make sure the closing deadline 16th February, so not too many weeks away. So do read all the guidance carefully. There is a lot of information online to give you some help, both on our web pages and throughout the online application form. And if there's anything you have any queries about, you're not sure about, please do email us. Please review the project options online. We have a webinar tomorrow afternoon at the same time with each of the project leads, so you can ask more detailed questions about the projects during that webinar. But that should help to clarify a bit more detail about each of the research projects. There's a lot of documentation you need to get together in terms of transcripts, evidence of funding, and so on and so forth. So please do have a look at those details. Yeah, Emiko just reminded. So some of the projects will have a subject specific require. They're looking for people from particular subject areas, whereas some of them are very broad based and will take students from any particular subject area. But they may, for example, sometimes some of the projects may require things like they may be more statistically orientated, some of them may be more lit review orientated. So do have a look at them in more detail as to what they might be looking at, because they do vary in terms of their areas. Social sciences being what it is, it's a very broad church. We have students studying lots of different, working on lots of different research projects. Sometimes things that you may think are more science orientated, others which can be a lot more on the arts humanities end of things. So please do have a look at that in a lot more detail. In terms of the documentation, there's a lot of information in there that we do require, so do have a look at that and give yourself plenty of time to get hold of that. Particularly if it's things that you need to get from your own university or you may need to get externally. So for example, things like evidence of free school meals, sometimes people have had to contact their previous school. So bearing in mind holidays and lots of other things that schools people can be very busy with, do give people time to have a look at that. And giving yourself time to look at the personal and the project statements. It's quite clearly indicated what those are, but broadly speaking, the personal statement is about you, your background, and what you want in, and kind of particularly why you might be particularly suited for this particular program. So we're looking at things like why you feel that you may not have been able to, for example, get the experience that this program would provide. In terms of your study and things like that and background. Whereas the project statement is looking at, for example, more about your interest in that particular project. So it's the kind of thing that, for example, the lead academic on that project may be very interested in having a look at it to see, why you're interested in that. They may look at that if you're selected to come for interview and kind of to do some follow-up questions, for example. So that's very much academically orientated. And you do need to write different statements for each project that you're interested in applying to. You can apply to all of them or just to one project, but do indicate that basically if you're applying to more than one, you may want to, we would suggest writing a different statement for each one. Like if you were applying for different courses, you would need to tailor it for that. It's like applying for different jobs, in that the more tailored that statement is, the better chance you have of actually being selected for that project as well, because it will be stronger in terms of your statement. In terms of your referee, I'd also say, make sure that you contact the academic that you're planning to ask, and make sure that they're available to provide the reference in time as well. They need to apply that reference within a week of you, I think, submitting your application. So please be aware that the academics that you maybe want to approach for that will also be busy. So do make sure that they're around and available. Okay. I'll pass over to you now, Emiko, to talk about about living in Cambridge. Thanks very much.
Hi, I'm Emiko Priest and I'm the School Operations Manager for the School of Humanities and Social Sciences. So just speak briefly about the accommodation that we have agreed with Gonville and King's College. So this, as Claire said, makes available accommodation to you for free. And the college is a lovely college. So the accommodation provided is actually a self-contained house, just off, so not right in the centre of town, but like a 10-minute walk from central historic Cambridge City. Emily and Joe, you stayed there, didn't you? So it's like there's 10 rooms and with 8 interns in, so there's space, a communal space, there's kitchens provided. It's self-catering, but you do have access to college dining hall during the day. Actually, I think other colleges as well, you can get into their dining halls as well if you can do a tour of the dining halls of like various colleges and have a good look about. And also you would have access to the usual sort of things you'd expect, laundries, there's the lovely college library, which is beautiful, and a gym if you're that way inclined. So we do provide student mentors in conjunction with the college, and those are postgraduate students, PhD students. They're not all from Keys, actually. They come from different colleges and also from different backgrounds as well. And the idea is that you have a connection or regular contact with PhD students who are going through postgraduate study and have can give you more real life experience, and you can talk to those people about how they find it, how they got into it, that sort of thing. It's good to hear it from people who are actually living that experience right now rather than hearing it from us who are not, perhaps. And there's also, like as Claire said, there's social events as well, things that we've done in the past, or the college actually have arranged in the past, so things like pub quizzes, escape room. There's a walking tour, there's an uncomfortable walking tour of Cambridge, I believe, for all the awful things that have happened, but quite interesting as well. And some really great ice cream shops in the city centre. So one of the things the college does usually put on in the final week is a traditional formal dinner in the college main hall, which sounds really daunting, I think, at the very outset. and people have always felt like maybe they don't want to do it, but actually in the end, people who do it, they really enjoyed it and found that it's actually just a really nice thing to have experienced and to have done. So obviously, like Claire said, it's optional, you don't have to do it, but I think most people find that when they get to that final week, they actually do want to participate in that. It's not going to be the night before your presentation, so it's usually in that like final week. And it's quite a nice thing. It's the mentors, some of your project team will come along. It's just an opportunity to, like, you know, get together socially and maybe let down your hair a bit just before that it all wraps up with the final presentations on the Friday. So that's living in Cambridge. Then the learning and development programme. So our learning and development programme is put together by Alison Harvey, who is the Inclusive Learning and Development Manager for the CAM Doctoral Training Partnership, which operates in the School of the Humanities and Social Sciences, and also the Director of the Cambridge Research Methods group, which provides research methods training for postgraduate students and staff in Cambridge. So that's Mark Ramsden. So between the two of them, they've put on a really great programme of sort of training and support for our share participants. That can be things like actual research methods, but also some of the more holistic I don't know how you describe it, more personal development. So one of the really popular ones is imposter syndrome. You know, it can be really daunting coming to the University of Cambridge and doing a project. I mean, I think I'd be doing it if I was thrown into an academic environment. And so, you know, those sort of things about personal development and about how you think about yourself and how you might think about where you're going, as well as discussions around postgraduate funding and what the next step is if you're interested in going into postgraduate study, that sort of thing. So Alison and Mark have got, you know, they've got great contacts. They try and put you in touch with, you know, other academics in areas that you might be interested in, make connections for you and introduce you to different people, have speakers, that sort of thing. And Alison particularly will be your main point of contact in terms of the final blade presentations, providing support on that and talking you through what kind of thing you might want to include and how you might want to present yourself. So that's where we are. So here, just this slide gives a sort of summary of the sort of things that might be covered under the personal professional development and research methods, if those things are interested to you. Obviously, participants will come from a different background and might have different levels of like research methods training, and you might not all have the same thing. So I know last year that Alison and Mark sort of did a mini assessment for each person to see where their skill, you know, where you already had skills and maybe where you wanted to build skills, so you could be signposted to the most appropriate kind of training that would help you fill those gaps that you maybe felt that you had in terms of wanting to progress into postgraduate study. So this is the interesting bit, like the really interesting bit, is where we introduce Gillian and Emily, who were our participants in 2024, and, you know, have kindly agreed. So it wasn't an awful experience because they come back to talk about it and are smiling. So we invited them back because it's really useful, I think, and actually really interesting to hear from people who've been through the programme and to find out where they have ended up and what they're doing now, and what, you know, what they got out of the scheme. So I don't know who wants to go first, Emily or Jill. Do you have a preference? Okay, I'll go with Gillian. Do you want to go first? And then I shall let you speak, Gillian. And so this is sort of what we asked them to talk about. So over to you, please.
There we go. Hello, I'm Gillian. I applied to share. It wasn't really intended when I first did it. I saw an opportunity when I was browsing on the university website for internships. I wanted to do something in the summer, but I wasn't quite sure what. And when I saw that, I thought it looked really an excellent opportunity, and it was paid, and it was 4 weeks in Cambridge in the summer, and it sounded amazing. So I thought I would have a look on the webinar to see if it was, you know, so I attended the first webinar and it seemed really good, and then I did another one and I thought, oh well, why not? I did have reservations about applying, obviously because of my age. I'm not a typical sort of student who would apply for these things. But I needn't have worried. I really enjoyed it when I did come. I was worried about not fitting in. I was worried about that everybody would be far more sort of intelligent than me, that everybody would know what they were doing. I didn't know what I was doing at all. I was worried I wouldn't be able to do the work. I was worried that I would just, fail at everything. But when I actually got here and met everybody, everybody was lovely, everybody was friendly, and everybody kind of felt the same. Everybody was a bit apprehensive. And it was absolutely lovely. It was an inclusive environment. Everybody on all the fellow interns were all supportive, and Emily was the first person I met in the house when we got there. The house was lovely. It was we had our own room, shared bathroom, but there was enough bathrooms for everybody. It wasn't a chore. The work we did on the programme, I was over at ARU working with Professor Mick Finley in the social psychology department, and it was a real research programme that I sort of joined in and helped out with, and I did all the sort of admin things for the programme. I did some research and bits and pieces because it was a very, very busy department, and my days were filled from morning till tea time. I wasn't bored. It was varied, and I thought it was a really good experience. When we weren't in department, we did the personal development training, the research methods training, which was fantastic. The imposter syndrome thing that you were talking about earlier on, that was really relevant to me because I was really worried about that, but it was fine. We did loads of social things on the evening. We all went out together. Emily and I tramped. We did 25,000 steps a day in Cambridge. We went all over. I think we did about 24 colleges or something like that we visited while we were here. We had ice cream. Well, Emily did every night. We did all sorts of things. We went punting. It was just really good. We met the PhD students, the mentors, who were fantastic. Really helpful and like real people, which was nice. I always had the impression that everybody in Cambridge was going to be stuffy, and it's just not like that. And I liked it sort of so much so that I applied to come to Cambridge for a master's, which wasn't on my agenda at all before the SHARE programme. I would never in a million years have done that. And so I applied to, I'm trying to think when I applied. It was sort of last year. I didn't think I was going to get a place, and not only did I get a place, but I got a full scholarship as well from Cambridge Trust. So without SHARE, I wouldn't have done any of those things, and I wouldn't have had the confidence to do those things. And I think that's what it gives you, the confidence and the belief in yourself, and the chance to meet people who you would never normally meet from around the world, really. I remember when I was applying, I remember Mark saying in the class about research proposal, that you had to make your research proposal doable more than anything else, doable in the time. And I remember that when I was writing it, I was thinking, is this doable? And it must have been because I got accepted. So yeah, so here I am now. And I've just put in my PhD application for Cambridge as well. So we'll see what happens there. Should find out next month.
Thank you.
That's
Good luck with
about
that. Thank you. Emily.
Yes, hi. It's nice to see you all. It's crazy because literally, as Jill was saying, literally a few years ago, we were in exactly the same position in the same webinar as you guys now. So yeah, very similar to Jill, I was browsing my university careers page with internships and job opportunities and things, and SHARE popped up. I was in my final year. I was doing an English literature degree at Durham, and I thought, you know what, an internship would be a great way to spend the summer. Didn't really have much faith in myself at all in sort of getting a place on the internship program, but I threw an application out there. After again attending the webinars, I thought it looked amazing, looked like a brilliant experience. So, threw the application out there, and somehow I got in. But yeah, so the actual internship itself, I had lots of anxieties about not only Cambridge life and kind of heading off to a city I've never been to. I'd never lived any further than 30 minutes away from home. I went to university in Durham, so pretty close to home. I was nervous about the academics. I was nervous about the other interns. Lots of nerves, really, lots of nerves. But yeah, so as soon as I got to Cambridge, all of that just completely disappeared. I met Jill. I met all the other wonderful interns. The mentors were fabulous. We had lots and lots of social activities on. Again, they're optional, but we found that most of the interns were really, really keen to get involved with things. So my project was based in the geography department, which to me it was a surprise that I'd gotten that sort of placement, because my discipline is English literature, but it ended up being one of the most interesting pieces of research I'd ever gotten to be a part of. Not only was it something totally different from what I was used to, they allowed us to kind of have lots of freedom and literally act as postgrad students, which I'd never had before either. So the mentors on the program in the department, told me and my research partner, basically, this is the project, this is the kind of wider scope, do what you want with it. So it was so exciting to just have that freedom to be able to go ahead and completely make what I wanted of it. As well, coming out of a dissertation, this was another experience in something very different from that kind of research. So whereas for English we have lots of desk-based research, reading books, writing about the books, this was very hands-on. I did some field research, even typing it up, which has ended up really helping me out with different projects I've been pursuing in the future. So yeah, absolutely brilliant time with the actual research itself. The social life, again, I'll talk about that. So Caius College were fabulous hosts. The house itself was such a lovely location. Me and Jill ended up eating basically every night in Queen's College, which was literally a few minutes walk away from the house. And we discovered that we wanted to visit as many colleges as we physically could in the time. As Jill mentioned as well, your days are packed from the morning to the evening. So it's nice to be able to just chill after a long day with the other interns. So again, same as Jill, I'd never once considered applying to Cambridge. I didn't even think I was going to do any kind of postgraduate study. I wanted to go straight ahead into a PGC to become a teacher. But Share completely changed my plans. So I ended up submitting an application to study education at Cambridge with Caius College, and I also got in as well. So I'm here at Cambridge now at Caius College, and it's fantastic. It's honestly, it gave me so much confidence, not only in my academic ability, but confidence to kind of move somewhere else and just really throw myself into something. Me and Jill and a few other interns went one day to watch the May Bumps, which was a fantastic experience. I'd never rowed in my entire life. I never would have dreamed of doing any rowing. But as soon as I got to Cambridge, I trialed out for the novice team. I ended up getting on the first novice team for my college as well. So completely brand new experiences, left, right, and centre. So yeah, Share has been absolutely one of the best things I've ever done, and I'm so grateful for the opportunities they gave me. So yeah, I couldn't recommend it enough.
Oh, thank you. Obviously, we get people who say these nice things to come and talk to us. But it's really positive to hear those things from you and to see like people going on to postgrad, because the idea of the scheme is to get people who may not have considered, even thought about what happens after their undergraduate degree, and open that door up and say, well, hey, there's a whole nother route that doesn't involve going straight into work. There's like, if you really love your subject, you can dig in further and like immerse yourself for a few more years and really think about that. And so, you know, it is really encouraging to hear that that has been a success in Share. As Lisa's organisers, we're pleased. So I think, Claire, back to you.
Thanks very much. I think that's everything. I was just going to ask actually. So Emily, Jill, so in terms of the programmes that you work, that the two projects that you're on, in terms of what you would, how different was what you would, I mean, Emily, you talked a bit about that. Was it very, I mean, you're both on very quite different projects as well. How did you find the interview and the selection process through to that in terms of in terms of beforehand and then when you were on the project?
Yeah, so for me, I had actually applied as my first choice to a different option. So naturally, I studied English at undergraduate. So I presumed that the most relevant one to me was it was one essentially. I can't remember the details now, but it was centered around categorizing words, which English words, you know. And my second choice was the geography program. So I was quite surprised when I found out I'd gotten the interview for the geography one. It was online. It was around, I think, 30 minutes. They sent you an email beforehand and you kind of just read through it, give you a brief about what the project was about, and you just essentially go into it, and it's a pretty relaxed chat with two of the mentors on that project. So I was interviewed by two PhD students who ended up working with me when I came to Cambridge. And again, I think don't let anything put you off if it's something separate from your own discipline, because you'll have been chosen for a reason. They know what they're doing. I had kind of doubts, but absolutely it suited me down to a T. So yeah, definitely have faith if it's slightly different from what you'd expect to sort of be allocated for. And really do have a good read through all of the descriptions of all the projects, because they're all very different. They're all brilliant in their own ways. And they are something really, really unique to offer.
That's great. Thanks very much. Jill, how was your interview and your selection?
Mine was fine. I looked through all of the descriptions of the projects, and I only applied for one, and it was the one that I got. It just aligned more closely with what I was sort of studying and my experience in work before. And the process was fine. I did what Emily said, made a thorough reading through of the description and made sure that I matched my personal statement to what they were looking for, trying to give examples. And then the interview itself, I was interviewed by Mick Finley, who's from ARU. He's a professor there, and another lecturer from Cambridge. He was from Lucy Cavendish College, and I was interviewed by those two, and I've never been so terrified in my life until they started to talk to me. And they were quite funny, and they were just normal people. But before that, I was really, really worried about it. And it was just a chat with them, and we had a bit of a joke and a chat for about 20 minutes, something like that. And then the actual project itself is very different from Emily's. I mean, Emily was pretty much left to just do what she wanted with it. But I mean, the one I was working on was already part way through. And they had specific goals that they had to meet and specific things that they wanted me and the other intern to sort of research for them. So ours was very sort of hands-on and practical and sort of bound by the requirements of the project, rather than Emily's, where Emily was quite free to sort of choose what she kind of wanted to do. And I think everybody's project was very different. I remember somebody talking about the archaeology one, which was a totally different thing, and that had to do with maps and doing things on computers with maps, which would have been absolutely no good for me whatsoever, because I'm hopeless at things like that. So yeah, I think if you realistically sort of look at what skills you've got for the available programs and try and match yourself to them, rather than just do something that you fancy that you might not have the skills to do.
That's really helpful. Thanks. Yeah, I do remember actually. I think, Emily, when you applied, because one of the projects, like you say, the one that you didn't really match up necessarily with your academic background, but you had some personal interests in that area in terms of things that you'd done outside of, your academic subjects. I think that's important for people when they're thinking about projects, that there might be other areas and other interests that they can bring into. It isn't necessarily always linked exactly to your degree subject area and what you've done before, but you can expand beyond that. So I think that probably helps a little bit with that. Is there anything else, Emiko, that you can think of at the moment, or Something like that?
No, just a reminder of the application deadline.
Yeah.
And also our email address if you do have queries
Yeah.
that aren't answered on our website. We've tried to put as much information on our web pages so they're easily accessible to everyone. But we do have an inbox if you can't find the answer or you really think that your situation doesn't fit in there. So yeah, information there. Thanks.
That'd be great. Yeah. Actually, I was going to ask one more thing actually of Jill and Emily, which might well come up and people might well ask, in terms of because I was talking about when you applied and the kind of the projects and things like that, and we talked a bit about how you chose those, but the personal statement about yourself, is that the thing that did you find that part of it a little bit more difficult to write about yourself for the application? Was that something that can you remember at all how you approached that?
I'm happy to go first with that. Yeah, so it was, I think writing about yourself often can be, no matter how much you do it, it can be a really big challenge. I think for me personally, what I found really helped was to have a friend read over what I've written and then kind of interject with different things I could add. I think as well it's just about being really honest with yourself, and I mean again with the imposter syndrome workshop that was really helpful to kind of encourage that mindset. Yeah, it's just really, I mean, I'm sure people will have kind of experienced this for different kind of UCAS applications for undergrad degrees, but yeah, similar kind of thing. But there are different kinds of I'm not sure how it's structured now, but when I applied there were a few different kind of things to fill out, different variations of the sort of statements to write, and it's just really taking the time and just being honest with your answers and making sure it is a true reflection of yourself and your experiences.
Thanks very much. That's great. Jill, can you remember anything about it?
There's one thing I would say about it is like if you don't write it down, nobody will know. So just make sure that you're singing about yourself basically. And I know it's really hard to do that, but you've got to let the selectors know what you've done and what skills you have and what you're interested in. I mean, if you don't tell them that, nobody else will. So, and it was really important that you wrote that down, which can be difficult, and that's what I kind of struggle with. But I just made sure that I did, and making sure that I was giving examples of everything, basically.
That's great. That's really helpful. I would say that we do have people who come on the share programme who are not from the Northeast as well. It's fine. I know Jill and Emily, as I said, got on very well. We've had some other students as well, but I think you probably have come from one of the, well, not quite as far afield as some other people, but you come from quite a way down to Cambridge.
Yeah, that was one of my worries when I came to Cambridge as well. My accent, I was thinking nobody's going to be able to understand a word I say. But it's been fine.
They get used to it eventually, I'm sure. Right, I think that's probably all for the moment. We could probably stop recording, Emika, and then give people a chance to chat or ask questions.